Hey, welcome to Inspired by LaRose. I am Shannon LaRose. I'm so grateful that you're here to hang out with me and follow along with this journey. Today's video is going to be my story about cannabis. My journey coming off of pharmaceuticals for pain, for anxiety, depression, for postpartum, and how I did that, why I did that, all that jazz. One thing I'm not here to do is to tell you to come off of pharmaceutical drugs or to start using cannabis. I'm just telling you my perspective on what worked for me, and I hope that I inspire others to ask questions and to be open to different possibilities, different ways of thinking, because that's what happened to me. I will start from the beginning. I have had anxiety and depression for a very long time. I know that it started when I was little, and I only know that now, obviously, because I'm an adult and I've gone through some therapy and, awakenings and all of the things have happened to know these things. But um, started when I was younger, but it presented itself differently, as I'm sure resonates with a lot of you. My anxiety showed up in my stomach where, doctors would say that she's just got irritable bowel or an allergy to dairy was another one, lactose intolerant. So my mom, who was amazing, got me to all the doctors. I saw even a cancer doctor at one point. I had the tubey thing go down my throat and my stomach to check things out because I kept complaining of issues in my stomach and cramping. And you should also know too, when I was 15, 16, started going through puberty, started my period, and that was very painful. So a lot of the doctors, said it was either due to that or the IBS or the lack of the dairy issue. So having to drink like lactase or lactate. Yeah. That progressed into my adult life, I had scenarios in my life where, sorry about my dog, I went to work as a flight attendant, loved it, and within 5 days, the job was gone, and I was moving back to New Brunswick, where I'm from. That was stressful, lots of anxiety around that. Lived back home for a little bit. Also had a time where, actually the very first time that I ever moved away from home, I moved from Moncton, New Brunswick to Lake Louise, Alberta. Beautiful place, but I'm an ocean girl and I love the beach and I love the sand. And skiing, snowboarding was not my jam. I found that one out by breaking my wrist, but that's another story for another time. Lake Louise was terrible for me. I was very anxious, very depressed there. It was very isolating. I felt very far away and I didn't have a good time. I met some amazing friends and I'm very grateful for those friends that I made. But I had a lot of struggles and, was very naive to the world, very naive to myself and who I was. So moved back to New Brunswick. That's when I went to work. I worked for Fairmont for a little while at the Global Reservation Center. Had a terrible time working there, not because of anything they did. It was all on me, all just my anxiety and my depression. Plus the pressure of having to speak French when, although my family, a lot of them do speak French. I am not fluent in French, so that was a lot of pressure. Then I moved out west, saw my future, working as a flight attendant with a really amazing airline. I went through all of the airline's training, but my anxiety and my depression got the very, very, very best of me. The days leading up until the final exam were terrible because I knew if I didn't pass the final exam, I wasn't going to be a flight attendant. You had to pass the final exam in order to become a flight attendant. And I was like, I'm going to fail it. I'm going to fail it. Multiple choice is not my jam. There's no way I can prepare for it. I just, in my mind, I have a terrible time. I second guess myself and I can't do it. My hands are sweaty just thinking about it right now. Multiple choice, no bueno. And of course, final exam comes up and I fail, but I fail by 1 mark, 1 point, one. And they didn't let me through. They're like, you can come back in 6 months. And I said, no, no. Bawling, shaking, like I can't believe my life is over. I came all the way out west so that I could work for this airline and I could be a flight attendant with my friends. This was supposed to be what it was all about, my second chance at living out west. And little did I know, a few days earlier I had, I don't know, not a premonition, but like a feeling. I should just apply for another job just in case. And I had found this company called Flight Center. And I had never heard of them before, but I was like, Flight Center sounds like it works in the travel industry, so I will apply. You never know what's going to happen. Fast forward to failing the final exam, getting a phone call later that day from Flight Center asking if I wanted to come in for an interview. Went in for an interview, got the job, worked for them for 9.5 years. Amazing opportunity. I definitely, did a lot of growing throughout my career. I made a lot of amazing friends throughout my career. I did a lot of traveling throughout my career. Like that is the part I'm the most grateful for, aside from the friendships, is, how much I got to travel in the world, seeing so many beautiful places. So, so grateful for that experience, but I had a lot of depression and a lot of anxiety during that time frame, and I didn't know how to deal with it. I didn't know how to work with it. I was going to therapy, but I wasn't finding the right counselors. I was having trouble with the medications. I was also on a lot of different kinds of medications, different kind of antidepressants, anxiety. I was on stuff for, my fear of going to the dentist, which is still present, by the way. And then I was on a lot of painkillers for shoulder and back pain that I had because of big, huge boobs. And then I got pregnant and I wanted to make sure that I was going to be, the healthiest that I could be, throughout my pregnancy. And I was. I remained on my antidepressants because that's what the doctor and I had discussed and what's going to be best for me and my body. And my daughter, the birth stories, I kind of traumatic, I guess you could say. My daughter was 12 days overdue and I ended up having to have a C-section with her, and when she came out she wasn't breathing. It was a rough go. I was induced on a Monday and didn't have my daughter till Friday. So, that in itself was traumatic. Then, not only that, but she's going through withdrawal because she's no longer receiving the same dosage as she was in my body because of the medication that I was on. So she is crying all the time and she just will not settle. And that was the first 3 months of her life. And I'm going to get emotional because I wish that I could take it back. Like I wish that I could enjoy it again. Sorry, I did not mean to get emotional, but it's hard because she's the most beautiful, most amazing child. And I didn't get to enjoy that time because I was so deep in my depression. Sorry. So that was hard. Trying to be the best mom I could be while juggling all of these feelings and all of these thoughts and being so far away from all of my family because they all live in New Brunswick. They're all on the East Coast. My mom was here for the first, month and a bit, after I had my daughter because she had to help with my C-section because I had a C-section and my husband had to work. So, you know, a- anyways, fast forward to thinking I'm going to go back to work and realizing that going back part-time was not going to work, that the amount of money that they were going to pay me to go back and I'd have to work every single weekend, it just wasn't going to work out. It wasn't in the cards. And so my daughter would have been almost a year and I had just found out I was pregnant again. So I'd be going back to work for like 6, 7 months and then would have to be off again. And if it was anything like my pregnancy for my daughter, I had to be put off work early because of my anxiety, my depression, my body just having so much trouble. So I was not sure what to do at this point. I was like, I'm taking all these drugs. I'm taking pain medications. I'm on anxiety medications. And, I'm struggling with the size of my breast because of both of my kids, my weight, all of it. I manifest, and we will talk about awakenings and manifesting, but I definitely manifested this. Getting on that list to get that breast reduction, having a tummy tuck done at the same time, and that taking a lot of the pain away. And I know that my mind frame when I was taking all of those pain medications wasn't, I'm taking them because I want to get high. I'm taking them because I want to feel a certain way. I'm taking them because I have to, because I need to, because of the pain, because opiates, Benadryl, Gravol, all of these drugs that are supposed to make you tired or cause euphoria in your body. I don't know what's up with my brain, but my brain doesn't act that way. It does the opposite to me. I'm awake. I'm monkey brain. I am alert. I'm thinking about all the things. My heart's palpitating. My hands are sweaty. My knees are weak. Mom's spaghetti, like all of the things. So they didn't affect me in that way. And I'm very grateful for that because my body got addicted. My mind didn't. So coming off of those drugs was a breeze for me. It was super easy. The first day or two sucked. Like I felt nauseous. My body wasn't feeling well. I went through withdrawal in that sense, but my mind over matter, I guess. Like I knew that I wasn't addicted. I didn't need these drugs anymore because I was healed. Like the surgery healed me. It literally was a weight lifted off of my shoulders. Now I had other mental challenges that I had to go through it all. And I end up having a hysterectomy, fast forward, years. And, my body's still going through a lot of hormonal changes and I'm still trying to sort my shit out, but I'm figuring it out. And, I wouldn't be able to figure it all out if it wasn't for cannabis. And, I was a very judgmental person when it came to cannabis. I always thought that it led to all the other drugs. If you smoked weed, then you definitely did all the other drugs. And I was very naive when it came to drugs because there were people in my life who were drug addicts and I saw what they went through and you know, I saw the pain and I saw the trauma that it caused them and it caused their family. And there was no way that I was ever going to do those drugs. There was no way I was ever going to put myself through that. And I'm grateful for those times for myself because, I didn't go in that direction and I had a completely different mindset around it. So, fast forward to taking all of these pharmaceutical drugs for my anxiety and my depression, being on one in particular for over 15 years, Prestige. And it was a very harsh drug. It just destroyed my mind. It really did. And coming off of it, you know, would have been a heck of a lot worse if it wasn't for cannabis. And I'll tell you, I'm very grateful that I had the stigma in the back of my mind around it because I'm glad that I didn't, I experimented with it a few times. I could say I probably smoked weed maybe 4 times in my entire life before it became legal. And it's just because it didn't like the way it made me feel. So I think the reason you're using it, the reason you're consuming it, has a lot to do with that, and making sure you're healed in other ways as well, right? So I'm, advocating that. So when cannabis became legal in Canada, I was at the point in my life where I was no longer taking a lot of pain medications, and I wanted to better my health, better my body, better my mind. And I knew that the pharmaceutical drugs that I was on were fogging me up and making me feel a certain kind of way. So, you know, I was like, well, maybe I'll do some research on this. If, weed's becoming legal, there's got to be something behind this so-called medicine that they're all talking about, right? There's got to be. People aren't just using this and consuming this just because. There's got to be reasons why. And of course there is. I mean, look at all of the research that you can do, and we're not going to sit and talk about it because it's really, the list is long. The medicinal values behind cannabis are great. And I didn't want to just go smoking it. I didn't want to just go buying it from anybody and trying it willy-nilly. I'm a big believer in making sure that you do your research before you do anything. And find what resonates for you and making it your own. It's all about finding what works for you and making it your own. So that's what I did my research, and I found this company called Harvest Medicine, and they prescribe cannabis for all kinds of reasons, I'm sure. I mean, I don't know the list of the reasons why, but the main ones for me were anxiety, depression, and pain, due to migraines and stuff like that. And if you live in Alberta, then you know what I'm talking about when it comes to migraines. Those headaches, they're the worst. They're the worst. So when those Chinooks come through, you want to die. Cannabis helps. I'm just telling you. So we sat there and we chatted about what would work for me, and started out very small, with small doses of THC and CBD during the day in oil form to help with the anxiety and the depression. And really, the best part about CBD is you don't feel anything from it. It just helps you to quiet the anxiety, to lessen the feeling, to lessen the brain chatter, the monkey chatter. So you don't have, say, 10 Shannons in your head telling you what to do. Maybe you only have 3 instead. It helps me focus. It helps me clean. It helps regulate my moods. It helps with pain. It helps topically. Any pain that I have, or even my daughter when she has growing pains, we have an amazing rub that we use that is CBD rub, and she uses that instead of taking Tylenol or Advil. She had a headache. I have no problem with her rubbing that on her forehead. She hates, peppermint, makes her want to puke. This stuff helps. So to each their own. If it wasn't for cannabis, I wouldn't have been able to gradually come off of my pharmaceutical medications. And I did it with the help of my doctor. Now, I also didn't realize when I started coming off of my meds that I had made such a large jump in dosages. I was on a high dose for Prestige. I was on 150 milligrams, which I believe is a higher dose. And I went from taking 150 to taking 50, and I do not advise on this. Thank goodness for CBD during the day, helped with the mood, irregularities, we'll call them. Helped with my anxiety, but didn't help with, helped with the nausea, definitely helped with the nausea, but I needed more of the THC to help offload. It was the worst withdrawal that I've ever been through in my entire life. I felt like I had the flu. I had the night sweats, the hot sweats, the cold sweats, the fever, the diarrhea, the vomiting, you name it, I had it. Now, very grateful that I'm no longer on it. I no longer have the brain fog from Prestige. I now have brain fog from lack of sleep because I'm a mom and I'm always thinking about things. So, working on that. We're working on that. But it was a gradual thing and it took months. I want to say it took like 6 months, but it made me start to feel better and it made me feel like myself again. And once the fog started to lift and the pharmaceuticals had really worked their way out of my body, and I had started to work with the cannabis and really become, closer to it, I started to open up. I started to grow and I started to really become who I am now. So, the cannabis, without it, I wouldn't be who I am today. I had my first awakening because of smoking cannabis. I realized I can manifest. I had my, spiritual awakening on realizing I'm a medium, on seeing things, and also getting my eyes checked to make sure that I am not dying in my eyes somehow, or seeing floaters and asking the optometrist, can you see said floaters, and her saying there are no floaters, you are fine, so I'm good. It led to me reconnecting with a friend of mine who's a medium and who is, a mentor to me and who has taught me so much and has led me on this journey and on this path. So it's definitely been very positive in my life. And, like I said, grateful that I didn't smoke it when I was younger. A, because your brain is still developing and you definitely don't want to mess around with that. But because I was able to try all avenues before resulting to cannabis. And I've just grown this beautiful relationship with it. And now I actually grow my own cannabis and, have worked through that. And I'm very open with my kids about it. They know it's mommy's medicine stick. I choose to smoke it and use oils, sometimes edibles, but not as often because I can't control with edibles. You can't control how it makes you feel, whereas smoking it, you can. Or the oils with CBD for me work really well. I also use it in my bath. I created these, bath bombs with Epsom salts and dried herbs. So it's really resulted in a positive for me personally. I'm so excited to continue to share about it. If you want to learn how to grow or if you want to know more about my story, I'm happy to share it. Next is going to be talking about manifesting and my awakening and how I knew I could see dead people, and hopefully helping other women grow and, showing others that there are other options out there. And of course, like I said, I'm finding all kinds of tools and ways to work with my anxiety and my depression. They're going to be a part of me forever, and that's okay. It's part of who I am. Being told your whole life that you're, not smart enough, or, you know, you're very creative, but you're not intellectually smart, or you're forgetful, or you're very sensitive, you feel things too sensitive, you feel things too deeply. Being told all of these things makes you really feel a certain kind of way. So making sure that you're working through all of these things and knowing that you are more than just those things. I am more than just a mom. I am more than just a friend. I'm a creator. I'm a healer. I'm a medium. I'm spiritual. I'm a pot smoker. I'm funny, and I'm loving, and I love deeply, and I love my family, and I love my friends, and I love all of you. And I hope that I can help inspire you to be the best version of yourself. I love you guys, and thanks for watching, and I can't wait to chat with you guys again soon.